experience, otherwise you miss it. It's not something that you are painting on the wall, the next day you come and the painting is still there. Performance is something different. It's about direct transformation and transmission of energy. And it's so immaterial, it's so invisible. And when I'm thinking about art, I always say that for me, I make some kind of imaginary pyramid. And I think that the highest form of art, at least it's my subjective kind of opinion, is music. Because it's the most immaterial and most abstract. After this is a performance, because you can have the direct energy contact with the person, and then every other form of arts. I don't know, maybe painters are not happy with this, but that's what I think. But now I would really like to, not to give you a lecture about my work, because I'm really here to have conversation, with Valerie, but also conversation with the people here. This is for me very important. So I will just show you some moments of my work, but first I wanted to share, something about my family, because family here is everything, and it's very important. And in my, country, it was ex-Yugoslavia, it was also very important. And to see how I came, what I came, and what I'm doing, what I'm doing, you have to see the huge contradictions of my own family. So we're just going to go through the slides. Maybe I put the light down and I comment. As you see, I don't like to sit much. I like to just talk to you and to be always in the front. So we just freeze images. So this is actually Montenegro. My both family come from Montenegro, which was the south part of ex-Yugoslavia. And this place is just mountains. We don't have hardly, you have desert, we have the mountains, hardly any tree. We have the seaside and the mountains. Next. So here, my grandfather was a patriarch of Orthodox Church. And in 1936, he was killed by the king, doctor, by the order of the king, because king wanted to have unification of Catholic and Orthodox Church. And he refused order of the king. And the king invited him and two brothers to the lunch. And they put crushed diamonds, I know expressive way of killing, but anyway, crushed diamonds in the food, and he died from the internal bleeding. After this, because he actually was supporting the will of the people who didn't want unification of Orthodox and Catholic, he was proclaimed as a saint. And he is in Belgrade in the church, as his relics are there. Okay, next. Next slide. Yeah. So, this way of talking about religion is very spiritual. And then we have my mother and father, who are partisans from the Tito time, both actually national heroes. My father was general, my mother was, the major of the army. And so I come from this complete opposite, kind of tradition. When I was born, my mother and father gave me to my grandmother, and my grandmother was highly religious, and she hated communism because it was like totally, for her, atheism was not acceptable. So I spent all my childhood with my grandmother, and my father and mother was making political career. And okay, next, I'll just show you all the men. So this is my mother, age 24, writing on the front, report in the war, 1943, during the German occupation. Next. Mother, so we just can go. Let's go on the slides and I tell you where to start. So me and my father, I was very proud of my father, walking on the street, age 4. My brother always been fat, still fat. So he was talking at this one. So my father, you see, is only you, me and my brother. My brother is a really small family, because so many families here. My brother was, he published his first book when he was age 14, and he was the youngest writer in ex-Yugoslavia, and he became a philosopher, and now he is actually writing books about consciousness and time, and also had his own TV show about science. So that's what he's doing. Next. My father, he was very active, also after the war, and here he was not anymore, he was in pension as a general, and here in 1968 there was demonstrations and the entire students' revolution, and my father was on the side of the students, and he was here talking to the students, and I was very proud he was on our side, and my mother was completely on opposite side. Okay, next. My mother on opposite side. So she was very strict, and my mother was so strict, and I had an incredible discipline, that really military in my house. I could not get home after 8 o'clock in the all my performances, I was done before 8 in the evening. And, you know, even if I sleep in the bed, she will keep the bed strictly, you know, she even wake me up in the middle of the night when I'm too messy. And I learned incredible iron discipline from her, and I really hated it in that time, but now I'm very pleased. Next. She was the director of Art and Revolution Museum in Belgrade. So we just passed some slides of my different periods of my life. This was when I was very young, you know, whatever. I think I was painting in those times. I started painting when I was, you know, 6 years old. My first exhibition, I was 12. And I was always jealous of Mozart who started 7. So this is, you know, this. I was pretty happy in this moment, but it doesn't look like it. And so on. So stop here. So in you know, I was painting, and then I really find out that actually it was a very interesting event that I found that performance was something I wanted to do. And I formed a group of the artists. I was the only woman there, and all of them, these guys, and they're all staying in Yugoslavia, and I only one left and continue my career. Next. Okay, so we actually stop here. We stop with this presentation, and we will go to the next one, but I have to say a few more things. So, first of all, the two events, I just have to look at the time. The two events I want to say how I start painting and how I start performing. The painting. Painting, it was very simple. When I was 12, and I had this birthday, and I was painting everywhere in my house. But then, for my birthday, I asked my father if he could give me the oil painting, because this was important for me, oil painting, that I can really become real artist. And my father was, as he was, you know, soldier, he didn't know much about art. So he asked one of his soldiers who become abstract painter to actually help me to buy the material. So he went with me and buy lots of stuff. We went home, I had a little studio, and he gave me his first painting lesson. So he was abstract painter, this was his painting lesson. He cut the canvas regularly, put on the floor, take the can of the glue, just drop like this, spread out. He takes some pigments, blue, red, green, and some of the cement, put on the floor, put everything gasoline, take the match, and throw it on the floor. Everything completely exploded. He looked at me and said, "This is sunset," and he left. So, if you think 12 years old, and this is impressive lesson, I never had any other one. So I looked at the sunset and I waited for weeks to dry, and finally when it was dry, very carefully I put on the wall, and with 4 nails. And I left, it was August, with my family to vacation. When I come back, the sun was hitting the sunset, and completely glue and cement and everything just fall off, and was a pile of dust on the floor. And when I saw that, you know, later on, that lesson, it was a very big impression on me. Because I understood so much that in my life, and in so many artists' lives, the process sometimes even more important than the result. And it was about process. And then I was painting, and one of the last things I was painting was clouds. I was always looking to clouds, looking at the sky. And I remember the moment when I was lying on the grass and looked in the sky. The sky was very blue, and out of nowhere came 12 ultrasonic military planes, and they made these strange drawings, like, you know, up and down. And I was looking at the forming of the drawings. I was looking at the drawings disappearing, and again blue sky. And for me, this was like a spiritual revelation. I stand up, and I just went home, and I said, but I will not go back to studio anymore. Because why I should make something two-dimensional when artists have this enormous freedom to use anything he wants. He was fire, water, you know, or himself, and make the work. And this was the moment when I was actually born as a performance artist. And the moment when I started performing, you know, that idea of the transmission of energy directly with me and viewer changed everything. So this was a little story. Okay, so now we have your time. So we have some images, and very fast I want to show you some of my, you know, early works. Can we go through the video? The first one is Art Must Be Beautiful, Art Must Be Beautiful. So this was a very simple piece using all my head, and I call this piece Art Must Be Beautiful, Artist Must Be Beautiful. And it's really dealing with the idea that art is not just about beauty. That's really a misconception. Art has to have so many layers of meaning. that every society can use one at a time. Art has to be spiritual, have to be political, have to be social, have to predict future, have to be disturbing, have to ask questions, have to give some answers. So many things at the same time. So for me, taking this, can we put the light down, please? I can talk in the dark. So to me, it was really idea, if I take a metal can, a metal brush in my hand, and I brush it and you know, my hair, and actually distorted this idea of the beauty, to understand that you know, we have to think about something else, and using my own body as a tool to actually give this idea that art doesn't need to, you know, match the colors of your sofa. It's something else. So this was done in Copenhagen in 1975, a long time ago. So can you play? Yeah, just play, please. So the title is ironic, because art doesn't need to be beautiful, and artist doesn't need to be beautiful. Artist must be beautiful. Art must be beautiful. Artist must be beautiful. Art must be beautiful. Art must be beautiful. Artist must be beautiful. Art must be beautiful. Continue, please, don't switch it on. Never mind. Anyway, so it's the video who goes on for 1 hour, and now we are just lectures, so we are showing you just the different moments. But the idea is that the video camera is the public, and I am looking to video camera like a mirror and doing this action. Alright, so we can go to the next video, please. Just play immediately when it's ready. And the next video is called Feeling the Voice, and it was actually the time when I was living in ex-Yugoslavia and going to live in Europe. And I made a series of the videos which I call freeing the voice, freeing the body, freeing the memory. And this one, Freeing the Voice, which I just kind of use the sound of my voice, like in music, scream till I lose the voice. Very abstract, and the camera is showing, you know, with the position of the body upside down. So can we play this? And sound, please. More sound, please. I met and who been my partner for next 12 years, and we worked together, and we met on the same day we was born, on our birthday, which is very kind of dramatic and significant. And the piece, we made lots of relational work pieces. The first one of the first pieces we made on our birthday, we were born the same day, is called And again, it's not about quarrel. It's about two voices producing something third, some third element, and it's really the voice as a sculpture, screaming. So I'll show you this, the second one. Yeah. see, which is very important to understand that here the body is the object and subject of the work, and is really the tool to express different things and different concepts. So it's not a private quarrel. We are really creating the idea of the body creating voice to become sculpture in the space. So another piece which is also presented here by the Listen Gallery during the art fair, it's called Rest Energy. This was, I have done few dangerous pieces in my life. This was probably the most dangerous one because I have to have complete trust to do this piece. And I had a complete trust because if the ball, if for any reason is going away, I will be, killed. And the sound of the microphones are placed on our hearts so we can see the sound of hearts changing beat as the adrenaline going up. And it's called Rest Energy. Also the relation piece. Please play. Our relation after 12 years finished on the Great Wall in China, and it was really quite an incredible journey because it took us 8 years to get permission from the Chinese government to walk the wall because China was not open in those days to the foreigners. And we start from two different directions. He started from the Gobi Desert, and I start from the Yellow Sea. And we can just play please wherever you get it. And we actually walked towards each other to meet in the middle and say goodbye. And this was the end of our relationship and end of our work together. And we really created this epic war. Somebody was saying to us, but why you have to suffer so much to split? You can just take telephone call and say, it's finished. But you see, that's the difference between normal life and artist life. So, this is the wall. I walked the entire mountain part and we walked the desert. And each of us, we walked 2,500 kilometers. So in total 5,000 kilometers. Just to meet in the middle and say goodbye. So maybe we should have a little conversation with just a few moments that you can see the images and then later on there will be this moment of meeting that you can see. But this was a really epic walk and not easy one.
Great. Well, Marina, I want to just start in the conversation.